You're in the 06010. Focus. Fantasy Focus.
What's good, friends? Welcome into Fantasy Focus Football alongside Stephania Bell and Yates. My name is Daniel Dopp. It is Monday morning. We are getting ready for 2 Monday Night Football games tonight.
2 what games?
2 Monday Night Football.
Ew.
Very excited about that. However, because it is Monday, we got a big reaction show for you today. We're going to overreact to a bunch of the stuff that happened on Sunday because we're still honestly in overreaction territory.
I agree. Like, that was my thought, is I don't know. It's one of those things. You don't know exactly how long overreaction season lasts, but you know when it's over.
Yes.
And it's not over yet.
Not yet.
2 games, far from enough of a sample size.
A lot of hot takes.
Like, I think by week 8, like, you're like, all right, stuff that we have seen a lot over the first 8 weeks, it's probably likely to continue.
Yeah.
For the next 8 weeks. But 2 weeks in, there are players who have unexpectedly balled out.
Yeah.
There are players that looked great in week 1, not great in week 2, or the opposite. So we're here to break down all of the important reactions.
Yes.
Because we're not calling them an overreaction yet. People are going to determine whether they are overreactions or not. Have a great show on tap. And a big shout out to our friends over at Trophy Smack for outfitting the studio.
Heck yeah.
In a crazy, cool new way. Got a bunch of, these are like player posters. We got
I see that loser chain. Who wants to put that on?
Mike Clay.
We've got Superman Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts looking sweet.
Yeah,
Jamar
Fly Eagles
Chase.
Fly. Look at that.
Yep,
Yeah.
we got all kinds of great new gear. Shout out
Some
to
good
Trophy Smack.
stuff.
And we have a new belt in the
We got a
front
new
of the
belt
studio.
here. Head on over to
You know what?
trophysmack.com.
You know what? You know who has a belt that color?
Who?
You?
Me.
Of course you do, Stefania. Of course you
Yes.
do.
Can I
Courtesy of all our good friends at Trophy Smack who actually put Stefania, the champ, on it. I'll save it for when I win some league. God help me.
Can I throw a little mea culpa down?
Yeah, what does mea culpa
So
mean?
I think it's my fault, like my error.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
So last week we were discussing like the biggest success stories in all of
Yeah.
Shark Tank history. We
Yeah.
pointed to dude wipes and we were like, what else comes to mind? And then we quickly moved on without actually naming other success
Yeah, we
stories.
didn't really think about it.
Trophy Smack, hello.
Duh.
Investor from a little guy named Mark Cuban, never heard of him. So shout out to Trophy Smack. They are doing great, great things. And let's get to the news of the day because unfortunately, it just took us 2 weeks to get to our first major injury of the year.
Yeah, don't love that. I'm just going to put a bow on this. Trophysmack.com. Use the promo code FOCUS10 for 10% off your order on any of the things that you see here. All right, let's dive into our first overreaction. And Stefania, this isn't an overreaction, actually. I guess this is just a news.
This is just news, and it's important to acknowledge this up front because Adam Schefter tweeting out this morning that officially Joe Burrow is set to undergo surgery for his turf toe injury that he sustained yesterday and expected to miss 3 months or more. I've actually written in detail about this. I encourage you to go over to ESPN.com. There is a multi-contributor article up there about basically what is turf toe and what does this injury mean for the Bengals. So a lot of different angles in there. But if you're curious, why does something that sounds so benign, why is it such a big deal? Go over there and read about it. But it is a really big deal. If you saw Joe Burrow, you saw that he was in great pain, had to be helped off. They were able to do an MRI at the facility. And within a couple of hours, I think they knew what was going to happen, but teams often wait just a little bit, give the player some time to adjust to what is really unfortunate news and make some decisions about where and when this is going to take place. But the earliest that Joe Burrow would potentially be back is December. I mean, this is when you have surgery to repair, it's basically the ligaments at the base of the big toe. You're talking about 12 to 14 weeks typically before you're cleared to return to play. And then it's individual in terms of how comfortable you are. So make of that what you will, but we're looking at December for Joe Burrow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it's
Not at all.
Or later.
Right.
right. Yeah. And it could be determined by how the Bengals are playing,
Sure.
right? If they're 7-8 when he is healthy and good enough to go and out of the playoff picture, it would stand to reason they would say, let's not risk anything further during the final couple weeks of the season. I have to check on this. I don't know if Joe Burrow is on the do not drop list on ESPN as of right now. We have certain players that are undroppable to prevent collusion and things of the sort. But obviously Joe Burrow, and this is sad to say, is droppable for now. If you have an IR spot and you really want to hold out hope, you can. But Joe Burrow is droppable. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the potential players that you could add to replace Joe Burrow with, of course, waivers running on Tuesday night.
Yep.
The reason I would say, too, don't even bother with the IR spot because you're going to get enough information in advance of that to find out whether it would even be feasible for him to come back. I would say go ahead and save that for somebody else.
So then, can I ask you from an overreaction standpoint, Field? Like, I feel like this offense is now going to run with
Timeout. Before you get to that, you can just ask me what my first reaction is.
What's your first reaction then, Field Yates?
It's like you read my brain here for a second. We can just dive right into it.
Yeah, let's do it. All right.
Because we're so
Overreaction
in
Monday.
sync, the energy is going from one brain to the next. I love it.
Joe Burrow is out. This is my first reaction from week 2.
Okay.
Joe Burrow is out, but Jamar Chase is still the best player in all of fantasy football. Overreaction or not an overreaction?
Overreaction.
Not an overreaction.
I mean, well, no, wait.
I like it.
Let me qualify.
Okay.
It's not about he is a great player. It's about what he is in fantasy football. And I know you said he's the best player in fantasy football, but he might be, but I don't think he can be. It's like, Samson without his hair.
No, I get that.
He does not. Did I strike a nerve?
There's rumors of a haircut coming up soon.
So maybe we'll find out.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll parallel
What if I
the
cut my
path
hair
of
and
Joe
go-
Burrow and Field Yates. And if you cut Field's hair or Jamar Chase and you cut Field's hair and all of a sudden Jamar Chase just stock
I go
tumbling.
winless the rest of
You
the
go
season
winless.
in all my leagues. I just go a collective 0-15 in my 17 leagues that I have this year.
Can we
all right.
please have a poll of, should Field cut his hair? Should Field not cut his hair?
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous about what the chat's going to say right
Doesn't
now.
mean you have to do it.
that-
Doesn't mean you have to do it.
Engage.
Yeah.
Engage.
Also,
chat.
our buddy Eric Moody hanging out in chat right now. Shout out to our friend Eric Moody. But
Yeah, go ahead, post it. Whatever. Why not?
Listen,
Yes.
I'll take
Let's
honest
do it.
feedback,
I don't think it's an overreaction because I still think Jamar Chase is going to have a quarterback that, while clearly not as good as Joe Burrow,
You think?
is still going to find ways to get him involved. And I think we've seen that in the past. Even though Jake Browning isn't the guy that I want, I think he knows to look for his number one wide receiver.
Okay, so let's talk through what happened yesterday. You want to? Oh, you go first.
I'm sorry. You cannot replace this. We were in college together. We read each other's minds. When Jamar Chase was struggling when he first came to Cincinnati, it was Joe Burrow and his confidence that lifted him up and was like, you can be this guy.
Sure.
I just don't buy. Number one player in all of fantasy football, Daniel, you think that he stays that?
Okay, this is
with
I do.
no
Good exercise.
Joe Burrow?
I do
kind of
think
like
that.
this exercise.
You're wrong.
Because maybe we could board bet this here because Daniel is saying he can be the best player in all of fantasy football. You are saying so I guess this begs the question. If it's not Jamar Chase, who are the players that you would
Christian
nominate?
McCaffrey.
Okay, Christian McCaffrey. Bajan Robinson certainly would come to mind as well.
And we have to have a conversation about his name, but we'll do that later.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yes, CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua are some of the early season
Malik
MVPs.
Nabers.
Malik Nabers, not great in week 1, but amazing yesterday.
Yeah.
Just for those that maybe didn't see it, Jamar Chase yesterday and Jake Browning threw 32 of the 45 passing attempts. So what's that? About 75% of the passes came from Jake Browning.
Did he do well
Jamar Chase yesterday, 14 catches, 165 yards, and a touchdown.
Oh, what a scrub.
Great
Look at that
gra-
guy, Stephania.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, but you know what? Great graphic. Jamar Mageddon.
Jamar
Shout
Mageddon.
out
Well, our producer
to Tyler.
Tyler is, of course, a diehard Bengals fan. So
I
we know
know.
he's kind of going through it. The team is
Sorry,
2-0,
Tyler.
but his
I'll
quarterback
tread
is out
gently
for at least 3
on your
months.
feelings.
Just to circle back to where Jamar Chase was with Jake Browning in 2023, because they did play for 6 games together. You guys, of course,
Yeah, it
recall when
wasn't
Joe
always
Burrow.
great.
It was not. So in those 6 games, Jamar Chase had a total of 1 touchdown.
Yep.
He had 10.4 or fewer fantasy points in each of those last 4 games. I think it's fair to say that Jamar Chase still, because of his ability and because of the fact that Browning has played a lot amongst backup quarterbacks. He's on the list for, 5 to 7 most trustworthy backups in the NFL, I would argue. Maybe a little lower than that, maybe a little higher than that. But this is different than some teams' backup situations, which is so dire. Beyond that, he's a good enough quarterback to keep the offense relatively afloat. We saw that yesterday when he did throw for 241 yards and 2 touchdowns. But there's no way to put it other than Jamar Chase's ceiling has dropped yesterday. The chance that Jamar Chase finishes as wide receiver 12 is now in play, whereas I think the chances of finishing wide receiver 12 with Joe Burrow were basically 0. if Burrow had stayed healthy for the remainder of the season. It's a hit, but he's still going to be a lineup lock, an absolute must start. There's not a whole lot you can do about it.
I'm not suggesting that you drop Jamar Chase. I'm not suggesting he's out of your lineup. I just am going with the strictly off the overreaction. The hypothesis was best player in fantasy football, and I just don't think that he has that shine anymore. Sorry, Jamar.
So I think we still all agree Jamar is going to be very valuable. Whether he's the most valuable is to be determined. Stephania, what is your first reaction from week 2?
Maybe JJ McCarthy isn't who we thought he'd be.
Not an
Overreaction or no?
I don't think he's who Kevin O'Connell thought he would be after 2 games.
Yeah. Very disconcerting start through 2 games for JJ McCarthy, who
Let me hear you guys out and I'll give you my take.
2 games, 1 good quarter in those 2 games. The tricky part about this one for me is that Minnesota is a team who very, very much envisions itself to be amongst the NFL's best, right? They want to be an elite team. They won 14 games last season. And I think that when you pass the baton off from one quarterback to the next, but you build the roster the way that you have in Minnesota, which is a lot of veteran players added because they wanted to win now, right? It's a suggestion that you truly believe that things are going to largely pick up where they left off. On top of that, who has a better track record in recent years of taking quarterbacks that maybe are one spot in public perception, but a different spot in Vikings perception, and the Vikings perception is right. Sam Darnold was a big bet last year. It paid off masterfully. Sam was great. Kirk Cousins played great football under Kevin O'Connell. We just said, Kevin O'Connell finds quarterbacks, develops them, and gets them rolling. And it hasn't been that, the eye test has not been great to J.J. McCarthy. Under 30 total completions in 2 games, Stephania.
Yikes.
7 catches. 7 for Justin Jefferson through 2 games.
I'm aware. Would you like to add your 2 cents before I give you my take?
It just feels like this team probably thought we get to do what no one else is doing in today's NFL, which is sit a rookie quarterback for an entire season, let him develop behind somebody else. Now, mind you, they didn't want to do that. That was because he got hurt.
Yep.
But that happened, so they probably felt like they were coming in with such a good baseline, letting this kid watch, especially with knowing that Sam Darnold led the offense the way that he did last year, and then to have the season start the way it has through 2 weeks. There's no way that anyone in Minnesota or us fantasy managers that have either TJ Hawkinson or Justin Jefferson should be feeling good about how things have started.
I'm going to tell you why it's an overreaction.
Okay.
I still am team JJ McCarthy.
Okay.
Let me remind you about what his week was like. Okay. Monday night, he played in his first ever NFL regular season game. I mean, no big deal, but you're making your debut on Monday Night Football. So challenges with that. 3 days later, he comes into the practice facility, needs to leave because they're having a baby. So then he's not there on Friday, comes back, gets a little practice in Saturday, and then, oh, by the way, your second game is on Sunday Night Football. So you are exposed in prime time, your first 2 games, to that. Oh, and by the way, your offensive line, you're not going to have your left tackle. And guess what? You're going to lose your backup left tackle during the game. You're going to lose your starting center during the game to a concussion. So you don't have the same protections. The way, would you see their attempt at a tush push and it was too low and the ball is fumbled and JJ's trying to save it. And they couldn't get the run game going at times. That doesn't help your young quarterback. But you know who still believed in him? We saw it on Monday night. Kevin O'Connell, who took him in the back and looked him in the eye and said, I saw it in J.J. McCarthy's face. He told him, you're going to come back and lead us to a win. And they did. Every time he sees a defense, and the Atlanta defense was good last night, he is seeing it for the first time. Okay? So J.J. McCarthy, he's slow. He feels like he's a beat slow to me. Everything's taking too long to develop. That makes the defense able to get to him. He's not processing as quickly as perhaps they'd hoped. He's played 2 NFL games, you guys. Give him a chance. I think this is way too premature to write him off. J.J. McCarthy's coming back, mark my words. And by the way, the guys you referenced that Kevin O'Connell developed, they were given up for dead by other teams. And Kevin O'Connell helped salvage them, but they had experience. They had been out there before. And Sam Darnold with the Jets was worse than J.J. McCarthy with the Vikings, I would argue, at the beginning. So, and Sam Darnold now was like, everybody was talking about Sam Darnold. Kirk Cousins had been cast aside by plenty of other teams, and then all of a sudden Kirk Cousins found his rhythm there. And Kevin O'Connell's special because when Kirk Cousins went to Atlanta, granted he had an Achilles injury, but it wasn't the same thing. So, yes, you're overreacting. JJ McCarthy, I still believe in you.
Okay, yeah, good. I mean,
I love this. Stephania believes in JJ McCarthy, but
Makes you
doesn't
feel
believe
better.
in Jamar Chase. This is going to be one of those things.
Jamar Chase is dependent on someone else. JJ McCarthy is dependent on himself. That's the difference.
That's the difference. Okay.
You're
All
up,
right.
Daniel. What do you got?
All right. Week 1 was an overreaction because the Lions actually have 5 must-start players
Well, you
on
picked a
their
Lions topic.
offense.
How shocking.
I know. I didn't. To be honest, I didn't mean to. Like I had a bunch of other things. This is where we ended. But like when you go through this offense, was Week 1 the overreaction, or is Week 2 the overreaction?
Week 1 was the overreaction. I think there's a chance, and this might prove to be an overreaction, but there's a chance that the Packers defense is the best.
Yes.
The NFL offense.
Agreed.
The Packers. Did we
really.
just not see this coming? We didn't see the Packers being as good as they are all around.
Maybe.
Like they're
I
playing
mean-
all facets of the game really, really well.
Yeah, they traded for that Micah Parsons.
Oh,
guy
yeah,
right
that's
before
it.
the season,
Here's
so
the
that
thing.
definitely put that sort of shot a jolt of energy into their outlook on both sides of the ball.
From a fantasy perspective, they're not that great for us, but from an NFL perspective, they are fantastic.
Here's what I would say: I settle in for the Lions. Who Jared Goff? He had as many touchdown passes as incompletions yesterday. That seems good, right? 5 touchdown passes, 5 incompletions. He even rushed for like 6 yards, and he missed a Lambeau leap. It was hilarious. Did you see
He
it?
tried so hard, just didn't have the ups to get there.
Amon-Ra St. Brown was the player he was joining, right?
Yes.
So Amon-Ra, who is probably like 5 inches shorter than Jared Goff.
And
Oh, yeah.
has springs, massive springs.
Right, he
jumps
like
all the
leapt
time.
into the stands like there was a trampoline in front of him. Jared Goff, who's like 6'6", like needed to be like there needed to be like a fireman carry to get Jared Goff into the stands. It was great. Jahmyr Gibbs looked like Jahmyr Gibbs. He was amazing yesterday. Amon-Ra had 3 touchdowns. J-Mo, a little bit of rat poison there with J-Mo, right? Because you're saying, oh my God, J-Mo's back. He had 2 catches.
That's kind of the thing that I look at. When I look at this offense, it's like, okay, so you just mentioned Amon-Ra. Like when you look at him, Amon-Ra is a wide receiver 1, right?
Amon-Ra, it's Jahmyr Gibbs.
And Jahmyr Gibbs is an RB1. Without question, those two are definitively going to be top 10 at their position.
Yes.
When you look at David Montgomery, with how he's going to get utilized, he's probably a top 25 running back. And once bye weeks get here, he'll flirt with top 20. He's going to be a safe floor flex play. J-Mo is the opposite of that. He is that upside flex play if you need him, especially once bye weeks get here.
It feels like J-Mo is the same player that J-Mo's been.
And we talked, dude, I'm so bummed because training camp was just like, we're going to utilize him. He's going to have an expanded route tree. We're going to do all these things. And it's a reminder that this is training camp. You don't need to like necessarily believe all of these things. By the way, they don't even get to highlight their best wide receiver in Isaac Tesla. And he's out here just making back-to-back one-handed
He's just
catches.
making highlight reel after he's putting together a sizzle reel.
He
is what
really
he's
is.
doing,
He
yeah.
is amazing. By the way, Monty
watch.
plus Amon-Ra plus Jahmyr Gibbs all scored a touchdown from scrimmage in the same game for the 9th time as teammates.
Unbelievable.
That's the most of any trio in NFL history.
I will
So,
say Sam Laporta being left out is a thing that we need to manage like the expectation for, because someone from this offense is basically always going to be left out every week. We're just going to keep spinning the wheel to figure out who it's going to be.
only thing that I'll say on Sam Laporta is I think at some point I've already kind of penciled in a conversation about tight ends because, whoa.
Yeah.
It is
Tight end is
desolate.
bad.
Desolate right now.
Remember
Now,
how we were like, there's this abundance of riches at tight end?
At the
and
top
we went
and
from
middle.
like
yeah.
rich to bankrupt in the matter of a week.
It has been quite inauspicious for tight ends so far. My next reaction is this. Brian Thomas caught just 4 of 12 targets, and he's no longer even a wide receiver 2 with Trevor Lawrence under center.
Yep.
Overreaction or not an overreaction?
No.
It
Not
doesn't.
an overreaction. It doesn't feel like it to me.
I don't know how I don't start Brian Thomas Jr., but it doesn't feel like an overreaction.
So let's talk through the numbers here because we don't have a gigantic sample size with Trevor Lawrence or Mac Jones. We have a sample size, though. 13 games in which Trevor Lawrence has started. Brian Thomas has 4 games as wide receiver 20 or better. And in those 13 games, he's reached 10 or more targets just once. That was yesterday, 12 targets. 12 is a huge number. You love that.
Yep.
Travis Hunter was a smaller part of the offense. Yesterday, it was not like Brian Thomas did not see opportunities. But in 6 games with Mac Jones, that was all late last season. And yes, they were playing a lot of garbage time games and they were just bad. This year they look better. Brian Thomas was wide receiver 20 or better in all 6 of those games, and he had 10 or more targets in each of those 6 games. So yesterday there were some weird moments in the game between Brian Thomas Jr. where he missed a pass right over the middle, had the drop late in the game. Just feels like the chemistry is 10% off, maybe more than 10%.
I'm so glad you said this, but it's not just them. I feel like Jacksonville is tilting a little bit. That was just weird. The
Passing
Liam
attack.
Cohen
What
and
is
Trevor Lawrence dynamic.
Yeah.
And I don't know where is this coming from, but I thought all these things in the preseason, okay, we're going to see this new revamped, and suddenly I find myself feeling about the Jags kind of like I did last year, and it's not good.
He's still going to be inside my top 20 for week 2 because those 12 targets are awesome. He had 7 in week 1, so that's 19 targets in 2 games. That being said, all the positivity surrounding Brian Thomas Jr. this summer has definitely cooled off through 2 weeks, and we got to find a way to get these two more on the same page because Trevor's too talented to miss on some of these throws, and Brian Thomas Jr. is too talented to only catch 4 of 12 targets. So moving down, not yet out of lineups. What's yours next one?
My 49ers won yesterday.
Yeah, they did.
And you know who led them to victory?
Mac Jones.
Mac Jones.
McCorkle,
Mac
baby.
Jones
My guy.
with new life
Yeah.
at the 49ers, where he was always destined to be because we know Kyle Shanahan loved him when he was coming out of the draft. And my overreaction is you can trust Mac Jones as a fantasy starter. He put up 21.8 fantasy points this week. He is currently number 8 among quarterbacks in terms of scoring over the week. So you can trust Mac Jones as a fantasy starter next week. Yes or no?
That's an overreaction.
That's an overreaction.
Yes.
And I'm a Mac. Daniel and I were actually talking about this.
Yeah.
We were recounting.
I actually agree with you. I just want to see what you said. I was trying to sell it. I didn't do a very good job.
You did a great job of selling it, but
We had a conversation. Yes, we were talking about him and I at one point, I'm pretty sure it was on. We think it was on Fantasy Focus, where we agreed. We were like, Mac Jones is a sufficient quarterback.
Yes.
he could start in the NFL. He just needs the right system around him, and it's such a great system. It was an awesome performance. I'm pumped for Mac Jones. I always feel for these quarterbacks that go through it, right? I mean, Mac just was totally let down by the circumstances in New England, and he was a backup in Jacksonville who played fine down there. They were a bad team, though. Mac's got talent. He's got accuracy. It's a great landing spot for him right now. If he plays well until Brock Purdy returns, which could be as soon as next week, then this could be a Daniel Jones type opportunity next year. Sign a 1-year deal to compete for a starting job.
Well, so here's my take on it. Great stats. Basically threw for 279 yards and 3 touchdowns, and you just saw that the team felt elevated by him, and at times they needed him to elevate because there were some mistakes that were being made on the field. But he found Juwan Jennings and obviously Christian McCaffrey. And
amazing.
CMC Smith.
Amazing yesterday.
He's remarkable.
Yeah, number 1 player in fantasy. I admit it. But anyway, but next week, the 49ers, who went 2-0 on the road to start the season for only the 7th time in the history of the club, and notoriously have not been great in that department when they start on the road. They have their first home game against the Cardinals, who are also 2-0, but a little bit remarkably for them after some of the mistakes they made yesterday. But you know what looks really good with the Cardinals? Their defense.
does look good.
Yeah, and so if Mac Jones, Brock Purdy may or may not be back next week. I think it's possible, but it's not necessarily likely. That's how I feel about it on Monday. We'll see as the week progresses.
25% is how I would interpret what you just said.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. They know that Mac Jones is entirely capable. And what you don't want to do is have Brock come back and then his toe gets worse, and we don't even want to put into the ether what that could mean.
Right.
So Mac Jones could be out there, but that's going to be a far different defense that he's facing than the New Orleans Saints.
Okay. I'm going to move on with mine, my friends, and I hope you're buckled up for this one because Javonte Williams is now a lineup lock and should be viewed as a top 10 running back moving forward. Overreaction or no?
That's an overreaction on the second half of it.
Yeah.
But he is a lineup lock.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, so when I'm thinking about running backs that deserve to be in lineups, it's talent plus opportunity, right?
Yep.
But the opportunity can sometimes be the most important part, and he is the guy.
He's getting the opportunity.
Cowboys, and it's not close, right?
Yep.
I mean, he yesterday was super busy once again. Miles Sanders is strictly a change of pace back.
Yes.
That's all he's there for.
I don't want to say I told you so, but when I was at camp, I did say that Javonte Williams was the running back lining up with the ones consistently. They had that not scrimmage, but they had joint practice against the Rams before they played them in the preseason. And it was Javonte and only Javonte. And now I am a little biased because I talked to him and I really, really liked him. Mm-hmm. But the things he said to me, which were organic, I mean, he was talking about the difference in his leg after it really took him 2 years to get past the apprehension he had because of that significant knee injury. And he just felt like something had changed in him where he was more comfortable pushing that point of physical attack. Remember, he was known so much for being a guy who could break tackles and would take on physical contact without fear. And that changed after he had that big knee injury, as you would expect, because it was a contact injury. It was terrible. And I still think he came back too soon. And you're seeing a guy who's running differently. And I think that's part of it. And he really he really talked a lot about Dak and the relationship he'd built with Dak and said he's such a genius at running the offense. So, pardon me if I'm not surprised that he's the lead back in this offense. And what I heard a lot down there was Jaden Blue was impressing people, flash, quick. But when it came down to all the other things running backs have to do and pass protection, who's trusted and all of these elements, there was still a lot left to be desired, and Javonte Williams was the guy.
Well, let me say this about Javonte. You talk about the opportunities. He's running back 5 in touches so far this year. It is very clearly he is the guy. I think if you have Javonte Williams on your roster, there's one of 2 camps that you very likely fall in, okay? He's had 25 fantasy points in back-to-back games. Yeah. So either you're saying to yourself, I just got a starting running back with absolutely incredible value in the draft, and now I have someone that I can count on as a potential flex or high upside guy. Yep. So you're either thrilled with that, or you're saying now is the time to sell high because he just had back-to-back 25-point games. And by the way, in week 3, he draws the Chicago Bears, who just gave up over 24 fantasy points to running backs against the Vikings and 32.5 fantasy points to the Detroit Lions. This is going to be another really nice matchup for Javonte Williams. But I think if you're a Javonte Williams manager, you very likely fall in one of those 2 camps. It's just, do you believe it long-term, or do you want to say, let me maximize this value and get out of it before it gets bad?
Yeah, this is where position matters. If this was a wide receiver who you got late and you're like, man, I could really turn this into something important, I would do it because there's just so many great receivers, right? Whereas if you have like Javonte Williams, if he was your RB3, that's incredible drafting by you.
Yep.
If he's RB4, incredible drafting by you. But if he's your RB3, you're one injury away from needing a running back every single week. So I'm holding on Javonte Williams. Too much opportunity in an offense that, for all the misgivings of the Cowboys last season, this past offseason, and to a degree through the first 9 quarters of this year, because they played in overtime yesterday. They ran the football. They had over 1,000 yards from Rico Dowdle last year. Like, they can find ways to make a running back pretty productive behind this offensive line that does have a lot of investment. They've
Absolutely.
got a first-round pick at guard. They've got a $96 million guard. Like, there's some talent on that Cowboys offense.
Oh, yeah. All right, Field, last one for you.
Rome Odunze is a top 20 wide receiver and a stone-cold lineup lock. Overreaction or not an overreaction?
Not an overreaction. No way. I think he's the wide receiver 1 of this Bears team, to be honest. He looks like he's got a better connection with Caleb Williams than DJ Moore does.
So it's not surprising that he has played really well so far for a lot of reasons. But the most important one is, he was the 9th overall pick in the draft, people. I thought, and I've said this many times before on Fantasy Focus, he was my 6th rated prospect in the entire draft class last year. So Rome Odunze, looking awesome, should not surprise many people. The question was just, would DJ Moore clearly lead the team in targets? And are there enough other guys that might take away from those top 2 wide receivers to depress the value of DJ, Rome, or one of the 2?
Yep.
Colston Loveland, 10th overall pick in the draft this year, 0 catches yesterday. It's not going to happen there yet. Cole Kmet really not playing a meaningful role yet. It is DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, but through 2 games, Odunze has 20 targets to 11 targets for DJ Moore. 7 for 128 and 2 touchdowns yesterday for Odunze. We talk about trust. Bonnie was talking about trust with Brian Thomas Jr. or Mac Jones. And Trevor Lawrence. I guess it was chemistry was the word we were talking about. But Rome Odunze and Caleb just clearly seem to trust each other, and he is a supremely talented young man. So there are really, really good wide receivers. He might be right on the border of top 20 for me this week, but we talked about this big glut of mid-round wide receivers coming into the season. He looks to be closer to the top of that glut than the back of that glut. Think about guys like, for example, not just these guys, but Jalen Waddle and Jerry Jeudy and George Pickens and of course Rome Odunze. A lot of those guys, Travis Hunter, a lot of them fit into that same category of where they're being drafted. Feels like 2 weeks in, Rome is amongst the better values.
Yes, I would agree with that. He's been fantastic to start the season. And guess what? It doesn't make a difference if the Bears are playing well or not. I'll take garbage time, come from behind, Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze every day of the week. Like, that was a big part of this game. So
yeah, sure. That was belt to booty yesterday by the Lions.
Yes, it was.
On Ben Johnson's Bears.
That was Dan Campbell saying to his former protege, "Welcome to the NFL as a head coach, my friend."
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Stephania, your last one.
Cam Scatterboo is the running back you want on the Giants going forward.
I think it's an overreaction.
I love that I made you guys sigh.
I did the Damian
Woody sigh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that I made you uncomfortable with this take. That was my entire purpose, was trying to do that, because I think it's a legit conversation that people are going to wonder about.
So there are three avenues this could go down, right, in this backfield. One is Scatterboo clearly outpaces Tyrone Tracy, like playing 70% of the snaps, and he takes over.
This is the beginning of something more for Scatterboo, right?
Two is Tyrone Tracy takes the edge back that he held in week one. I think third door is the most likely one.
Somewhere in the middle.
They cancel each other out, yes.
So this is sort of like Seattle, who we'll talk about them a little bit later on, because there was some developments there yesterday.
Yeah.
I think it's probably that.
Do you have anything else?
No,
you'd like
I
to
agree
add?
with that.
Which lands them both into like running back. I don't know why, but I have certain arbitrary numbers I assign. Like running back 31 for some reason. I don't know why it's always 31, but RB 31 for me.
Well, it's funny because I think Tyrone Tracy is like running back 31 right now, and Cam Scatterboo is like 20.
Yeah.
But here's the reason, because I think some people were like, okay, leave him for dead after the first, it's Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatterboo's not getting any of the attention. But then yesterday was kind of fun, and he had this big giant run, and to me, he looked like the Cam Scatterboo that you wanted. Like he was the old boomer rumbling, bumbling, stumbling down the field all the way to the goal line. And then I loved what the Giants did, that they just gave him the ball so he could get the touchdown, because after all, he earned it. But he's still making rookie mistakes. He doesn't always make the best decisions. He doesn't protect the ball well enough at times. He loses it. Sometimes he's just going straight up the middle like he's got the power, and it's like, no, this is the NFL.
Yeah.
It's not college. That's not going to happen for you quite the same way. That said, I still do believe, and I was one of the ones in the preseason who was saying, I think that by the end of the season, it will flip and Cam Scatterboo will be the running back that you prefer to have on your fantasy roster. I still believe we're heading that direction, because I think at the end of the day, I love the grit, the toughness, that I think that will pay off for that team. And I think he'll have a bigger role. I think in the short term, it's probably more like what Field's describing, where I don't really feel comfortable starting either of them, because they're maybe going to cancel each other out, or I can't pick who will likely have the better day. So I think it's an overreaction to say he's the one going forward. But I'm happy to keep him on my roster, because he's certainly someone who I think his role is going to keep growing.
Yeah, I think he deserves to be on benches. And I say that in a positive way, not like in
the
a
Giants bench, your fantasy
Correct,
team.
your fantasy bench. He deserves to be rostered and very likely on your bench. And once bye weeks come around, once you get a little bit more, like he may become more useful. Sure. But right now, I would rather not start either one, because more often than not, I don't think that what the Giants offense did yesterday is going to be, for throwing for 450 yards and having almost 600 yards of total offense. Like that's.
Who do they play next?
That's a great question, Field.
Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday night.
Oh, don't love that matchup.
For all the things the Chiefs aren't doing right now on offense, they are doing pretty much everything they can defensively.
Yeah, that's true.
Get right game for Kansas City.
Seriously.
I mean, they have some real troubles,
Yeah,
obviously.
they do.
Yeah.
But,
Well, speaking of troubles, my fantasy squad has some troubles, because Ken Walker III dominated, but this is still a committee in Seattle, and I'm getting out as soon as I can.
Interesting.
Is that an overreaction or not an overreaction?
I think it's an overreaction.
Yeah, I do too.
So the Seahawks have told us through 2 games that they want Zach Charbonnet to be their lead back.
Yep.
And it feels like the stuff that they value from Zach Charbonnet are things that go beyond the fantasy box score, at least.
I agree with
I
that.
feel like he's one of those guys where pass protection they believe is reliable, right place, right time. If the play is designed to go through this specific hole, he's going to hit that specific hole, right? Very just like steady hand. Kenneth Walker III is clearly a more talented player, clearly way more explosive,
Much
as
more
evidenced
explosive.
by the 105 rushing yards on just 13 carries yesterday. So Zach Charbonnet had 15 carries for 10 yards. That's right, 10 yards for Zach Charbonnet yesterday. But I tell you, if you're Seattle and you're okay offensively but far from great, don't you have to trade a little bit of like maybe Kenneth Walker III has a couple of limitations that Zach Charbonnet doesn't have, but Zach Charbonnet has a lot of limitations that Kenneth Walker III does not have. Like you want to trade the explosive plays, you want to get those on the field. And I think that Kenneth Walker III clearly has them. Week 3 will be a very, very telling week for the Seahawks and their backfield snap.
This is the way that I'm looking at this backfield, because right now through 2 weeks, it's clear, and you just laid out all these great points, Field, so I appreciate you for doing that. Like, it's clear they still want to use Zach Charbonnet in spite of the fact that the production doesn't exist. There's a reason, though. They want him to be on the field still. JSN, honestly, is the only Seahawk I have faith in starting in my fantasy lineup.
Awesome, huh?
Because, yeah, I think it's 42% target share. But when I look at this backfield, I just get nervous that with Ken Walker III, they're going to still want to use Zach Charbonnet regardless of what his production looks like because of what he brings to the field. And for me, the one thing that I have to say is it's only week 2.
Right.
You can't get desperate. There's one of the things about trading in leagues where you're trying to sell high and you know you're trying to sell high in a guy. You can't go out and look desperate too early. Otherwise, everyone knows, oh, Dopp's trying to shop Ken Walker III. So none of us are going to give him full value because he's just trying to pawn him off on whoever. We all talk in leagues, right? Behind other people's backs about when we're trying to get trades and stuff like that. It happens.
Not about you.
But we all do that. So because it's only week 2, you can't make it look like you're desperate to move on from somebody like Ken Walker III. So that's why I said when the opportunity arises, as soon as I can, and it feels like I'm not just selling for pennies on the dollar, I want to bank a couple of good games. But I do believe this will be a committee for the rest of the season. Maybe that's the overreaction part. But I still believe in 2025, there's going to be a 2 running back system in Seattle.
They've got 2 talented backs. And, I think more and more teams are, I think it's unusual because you don't have the Saquons or the Christian McCaffreys everywhere. You don't have backs who are so clearly above and beyond that they are defining your back. That's who you want. There's no question. Most backfields have 2 talented guys, and they're trying to divvy up whether it's they believe in who has the hot hand or who faces a better matchup, depending on what the defense is presenting them. So, yeah, if I'm Seattle, I'm making use of 2 guys. And Seattle has a history of not having backs who can stay healthy, which, it's most NFL teams. But they've had that too. And Kenneth Walker's been banged up a little bit as well. And I know that in the preseason, that was also one of the things where Zach Charbonnet was earning a lot of favor because he was in practice every day.
Yeah.
And Kenneth Walker III was not. So, I think it's going to end up being a split is more likely, but if I saw it going 70-30 Charbonnet to Walker, I wouldn't be surprised.
That would be disappointing.
That would be that would play into some not great things for fantasy managers. Where do you think the term hot hand came from? Is that like a smithing tool, like a smithing phrase back in the day where it's like a blacksmith would be like, oh, I'll work on that thing. And it's like, don't worry, Tommy's already got a hot hand from holding it over the fire. We'll let him do it.
Hot potato.
I don't know.
Hot potato?
I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
But I want to go with that because I'm just picturing, I got a visual of ye old.
Yes,
Sturbridge
and I got the
Village.
whole suit on and I got a
You've
mitten on my
the
hand and it's
apron
like,
and
yes.
you're stoking over the fire. That's
Yes.
We should
that's
go
where
to
it came from.
Sturbridge Village, which is like an
Yes,
hour
Sturbridge
away.
is
from here,
great.
And go find out.
That's awesome. That's a great place. Have you taken the girls to Sturbridge Village?
I haven't yet, but I'm from Massachusetts. I went there almost every year in school.
I
Okay.
went there.
Yeah.
Do you think that we go on a little tour? Be like,
Hey, guys.
hey, just wondering.
I'd love to ask a question about a potential old
Hot
phrase.
hand.
Yeah, where that came from. All right. Anyways, without further ado, actually, that's another phrase. Let me ask this. I thought adieu meant goodbye.
No, that's adieu.
That's
Adieu.
What is
Adieu.
IEU?
Adieu.
So what am I saying when I say without further ado?
ADO.
ADO. Okay, so it's not French.
No.
What does adieu mean? ADO.
It's a
Without,
iteration
like,
of
it's
eschew.
it's the old English without further
Adieu is a
Okay.
French poop.
Adieu.
That's right. Yeah. Yes.
It's not really adieu.
I have to make adieu,
It's
please. Okay. All right. Well,
All right.
let's dive into our week
I'm
2
gonna correct
studs.
your French.
Speaking of studs, our YouTube chat did weigh in on Fields' hair.
Oh, and where did they land?
And if you look at it here, our YouTube chat said officially 55% of chat believes that Fields Yates should in fact cut his hair. I am on the 45% that thinks it should stay. I'm a big fan of the
I
hair.
gotta tell you, like 75, and we could have had a conversation. 55, and I don't.
I know
think-
it means the fans are split.
You know how like.
We got a question from
Thank you.
Dubby. He wants to
It's
know
not
anyone
really
who
a
voted for
question.
Field to cut his hair are haters. Let it
I
flow.
want W to
Yeah.
know. Thank you.
No, they're
Thank you.
Yaters.
That's right.
That's right.
Even better.
That's yeah.
There we go. Love it.
All right. Let's
Studs
dive
and
into
duds.
some studs real quick. How about
Yeah.
the Giants passing game? I know we
Speaking
just
of
talked
studs-
about
No, you with the segues, and usually you're so good.
I
You
know.
could have gone.
I
from
could have.
Field Yates too.
Malik
Talking about
Nabers.
studs.
I mean, we should have done that. I should have done that, Stephania. That's
Let's
on
go.
me. That's on me.
Yeah.
Wait, listen, this Giants passing game, I think we knew who Malik Nabers was. Do you think that we know who Wan'Dale Robinson is with Russell Wilson?
For those that maybe missed it somehow, Malik Nabers went off a career high 167 receiving yards yesterday, plus 2 touchdowns. I got to tell you, highlight value on that guy
Oh,
off
man.
the charts. And Russell Wilson, who says you can't teach an old dog new tricks? As he had 450 passing yards yesterday. That's just most ever.
I think he was.
Russell Wilson.
I think he was motivated by all the commentary of like, you're gonna let Russell Wilson start in week 2. Oh yeah, yeah, they did.
So
It didn't end great.
And
Russ-
Russ cooked.
Russ did cook. He still
just
throws a beautiful deep ball.
Oh, the
I mean,
deep ball's
just
unbelievable.
it's a thing of beauty. I loved seeing the involvement there. 13 targets for Malik Nabers. This was one of my potential overreaction or not overreaction questions. But do the Giants have 2 fantasy starters at wide receiver? I think Wan'Dale Robinson is like my favorite archetype of a flex
Yeah.
or like first player on your bench.
Once we get into bye weeks, then yes, Wan'Dale Robinson
Been
will
awesome.
be a
Ooh.
flex
Back-to-back weeks.
consideration.
I think he's got 19 targets in 2
Yeah.
games.
18.
18 in
18
2
targets
games.
in 2 games.
How about this, though? This was his first career game with over 100 receiving yards, Wan'Dale Robinson.
No
in
way.
his 4th season. So he's usually just a PPR demon, right? Like he's good for 7 catches for 55 yards or something like that. He was awesome yesterday. The Giants are not going to throw for 450 yards. They play the Chiefs this upcoming Sunday night. That is certainly not going to be the case against them.
Yeah.
But just an incredible performance from them. And not too far behind Malik Nabers as far as great receivers goes. Puka Nacua. This guy was awesome yesterday.
Leads the NFL in receptions. He's 4th in receiving yards, and it does not look like Devontae Adams being there and taking some of those end zone touches has not negated any of his fantasy value.
going
You know
to.
what?
They can carry
Yeah,
multiple.
and we basically told you this at the start of the season. We told you this by where Puka Nacua was ranked. We told
Yep.
you this by where he was drafted. I think he's basically performing at expectation.
They
Well,
can
the only
support
reason
2
he-
high-end pass catchers.
Yeah, the only reason he dropped a little bit was because people were concerned about Matthew Stafford. Through 2 weeks, those concerns are gone. Jimmy Cook was amazing yesterday for the Bills. 21 carries for
Does he like
132
Jimmy?
yards and a touchdown. I hear
Or is that-
Jimbo a lot, so I don't know.
Okay.
Did he get game scripted into more opportunities because of Josh Allen's potential broken nose thing where it's like, you know what, rather than let Josh throw the ball more, maybe we just like
I
default.
don't think it was that. You know, Josh immediately knew his nose was jacked up.
I
He
think
ran
we all
off
did.
the
It-
field.
yeah.
I mean, it was bleeding everywhere,
it was
right?
everywhere.
But sometimes it takes a player a minute. Remember Tyler Hansbrough, the North Carolina and the
Yep.
NBA player, like his face shattered and he gets up and he's like, give me the free throws. I want to go take the free throws. So like, dude, you're
literally
red.
can't.
You're a tomato. He's like, oh, my bad. Anyways, Josh knew right away. No, I just think that the Jets came out extremely flat. The Bills came out like the Bills are capable of. And we've seen this from Josh Allen. I actually want to say it was exactly week 2 last year where they were playing the Dolphins Sunday Night Football. And it was like an absolute storming by the Bills. And Josh ends up with like 12 fantasy points. But they did not need him to do much yesterday. He did have a monster run, did Josh Allen. But Jimbo Cook was great, 26.5 fantasy points.
18 touches in week 1, 22 touches in week 2. He's a high-end RB1 right now with how much he is getting volume in this offense. He's
Keep my
crushing it.
fingers crossed. He did not, practice the entire training camp. Some, but not the entire one. If he stays healthy, it's going to be a remarkable
Do you think he
season.
runs faster now because he was running with all that extra money in his pockets during training camp? And then when he takes it out, it's like, oh, look how much lighter I am. I can run faster,
Doesn't
guys.
he have more money?
Yeah, I don't understand.
Well, he should. Oh, you're right. He didn't. He signed a new deal. I thought he signed an extension. Did he not?
Right.
yeah, so he had
but
more
during-
money. So
Yeah,
why
so,
would
like,
he be
after he
taking
signed
it out
it-
of his pocket?
Because he
'cause he's putting
practices
it in the
with
bank.
it. Yeah, he practices with it
Oh,
so
so
that it's
like-
extra weight, and then it's like you take them off for game time. That's what it is.
okay.
Leaves
Sorry.
falling off a
That's
car in the
what it
fall
is.
because the leaves are
Gosh.
falling down in Connecticut. Last one here. This was kind of a random one.
This one's
not
from me.
totally. Go ahead. Fire away.
This was Troy Franklin.
Yeah.
I think Troy Franklin needs to be rostered. And I'm not going to be here on tomorrow's show, which is part of why I wanted to bring it up. Liz Loza is going to host the show for us tomorrow. Normally, I would do the waiver wire, but he leads all Broncos in targets, receptions, receiving yards, and fantasy points. He also has a touchdown, found a way to get in the end zone. And one of the ways that I love with the way they're utilizing Troy Franklin is they're manufacturing touches for him as a wide receiver. He has 5 catches at or behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
That is second most in the NFL amongst wide receivers. Only Debo has more manufactured touches through 2 weeks than Troy Franklin does. And they're still using him down the field as well, but they're finding ways to get the ball in this guy's hands.
Yeah.
He was definitely a disappointment in year 1 as a rookie. I mean, he's 6'3", 180 pounds. He's really slight. Like, he's not a big guy.
Yeah.
But it looks like he has developed a ton of chemistry and is a priority target here in this Bo Nix offense.
Well, he has a lot of chemistry with Bo because they played together in college.
Yep.
So there's definitely some familiarity there. I think he will be on, and I'll do the waiver stuff tomorrow for you. He will be on like the speculative ads for me. This offense definitely likes to share the pill, right? They get the ball around everybody. Just one catch yesterday for Cortland Sutton. So I'm not quite sold that it is going to be Troy Franklin unto himself as the Broncos.
I don't think that, but I just think he needs to be on benches the same way that we talked
I
about.
agree on that.
You know what? Before we move on, I had one guy who I didn't add him to the list, and I should have, and he's getting a shout out from me because, shame on you, Mike Clay, for blaming people for taking kickers around early. And you know how much I love Brandon Aubrey.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about my love for Brandon Aubrey. Brandon Aubrey leading all kickers right now from yesterday with 23 fantasy points, 4 for 4 in field goals. And let me tell you, 2 of those field goals were 40 yards or greater, and 2 of them were 50 yards or greater, including one for, was it 64 yards,
yeah.
I believe. The guy is money. He's got a boot from his soccer days. He's unbelievable. The pressure was on, and he did it every single day. He's unbelievable.
Did you hear the
Brandon
broadcast
Aubrey.
about
And-
him?
Yeah.
Where how it's like they were watching football games.
Oh, no. I knew that whole story because
I wasn't sure if
Yeah, no.
for people that haven't listened, Stephania, do you want to tell it?
Yes, he was watching because he was playing professional soccer and then was out, and his wife was like, saw in football, and when she saw somebody miss a kick, she was like, "You could miss a kick just
as well as they
could." And he ends up with an opportunity in, I believe it was the
UFL.
the UFL.
Yeah.
And then was scouted by Dallas. But here's the part that they didn't tell you last night. The guy who helped him develop kicking a football, because he was just like going to a park and setting something up and trying it, didn't know what he was doing, is the guy who was Dak Prescott's kicker in college.
Oh,
And that is how he got the attention of the Cowboys, who then signed him out of the UFL to Dallas. And it's been mad love
Shout
ever
out.
since. And by the way, don't tell me you can't use 23 points from your kicker. All I'm saying is kickers do matter. Every week there have been some guys who have made your fantasy team win.
Felt like he was the only one trying to win that football game. Both teams, neither one of them wanted to take the dub in overtime. All right, let's talk about some duds here. Unfortunately for the Jets,
speed dating on
we
these?
can do quick on this one. Justin Fields, unfortunately, was disappointing. He left the game in the fourth quarter because of a concussion.
Yes.
Stephania, they're not all linear, as we know, but we do understand how to approach concussions, unfortunately, in fantasy football. So we'll
but he was
continue
really
to monitor
bad
that.
prior to that.
He was not
Justin
good.
was really bad. Again, the questions about Justin as a passer reared themselves. He was 3 for 11 for 27 yards. If you're
3
looking
for 11.
for the good for Garrett Wilson, he once again dominated targets. He had 8 targets on a game or a day in which the Jets very infrequently threw the football.
Yep.
One more silver lining, despite the fact that he had just 5.8 fantasy points. Brees Hall, the gap widened quite a bit between him and the rest of the backfield. He is the man. In Baltimore, I guess actually a week 2 stud is Grant Delpit, the Brown safety, who was like, tackling Derrick Henry is not that hard. The Browns backed up Grant Delpit's plea, sort of. 11 carries for 23 yards for Derrick Henry. Nothing in the passing game.
The Ravens
whatsoever.
beat him in other ways.
Yes. The Ravens ended up winning the game 41-17. Lamar throws 4 passing touchdowns. He's
was any of them to Mark Andrews, or was he?
No, Mark Andrews had 1 catch for 2 yards. So Mark is up to a total of 7 receiving yards through 2 games. Mark will be discussed at some point this week because
be another
if you're talking about sounding the alarms on players, Mark Andrews plays tight end.
There's no Isaiah Likely, so my thoughts that he would have a greater role with him not even being an option.
Nope.
Not great.
Spreading it around.
Yep.
How about, speaking of spreading it around, Marvin Harrison Jr. still not getting a ton of volume, Phil Yates. I asked the question going into this week. He had 5 targets for 2 catches and 27 yards. It still just doesn't feel like the vibes are there between him and Kyler.
It's not there, and it was a weird game yesterday. They have a defensive touchdown early, so they played. The Cardinals were playing with a gigantic lead for a lot of this game, so perhaps the pass heaviness of the offense is a reflection of the score, not the intentions of the offense. But yeah, 5 targets, 2 for 27. We are not there yet with Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't care how high you drafted him. He is not a lineup lock right now.
I agree with that. It was very fun to watch an onside kick actually get converted. I haven't seen an onside kick be converted in a while.
Panthers almost came back from basically the dead, 27-9, I think it was.
Speaking of coming back from the dead, Ramondre Stevenson, Field Yates. I thought we were speaking Travion Henderson into existence.
Yeah, me too. Whether we like it or not, though, it's Ramondre Stevenson's backfield in New England. He actually played really well yesterday. Credit where it's due. Ramondre was excellent. He had 5 catches, had a huge play for them in the passing game. Travion Henderson got flagged for 2 separate holding calls, which it was not the last we saw of him. They were in pass protection, but we saw him very infrequently in the second half of that game. Yeah. The Patriots get a win, but for those of you that have Travion Henderson, that's a loss. As I would say going into week 3, they play the Steelers. Not convinced he'll be in lineups next week.
Nope.
I still think there's going to be a moment where he breaks through at some point this season because the team needs explosive playmakers. But I think we can all agree the rush to get him into lineups for fantasy was, frankly, too fast.
And we were trying to be able to say the same thing on Keon Coleman in spite of what was a really big week 1. We tried to pump the brakes a little bit here, getting the Sauce Gardner shadow.
A wonky game, right? Yeah. I mean, Josh Allen barely played.
It didn't feel great.
Big, so they kind of got game scripted out of needing to pass the football.
3 catches for 26 yards, only 5.6 fantasy points. Can I mention one more dud real quick, just because I won't be here tomorrow? And one of the guys that I think is
going to say yes.
He's very definitely droppable. I think he has had the worst start this season in 2025 through 2 games. And it's a guy that was drafted as a top 100 player in fantasy football leagues.
Just not usable.
I don't know.
So you drafted him as a top 100 player. He was a top 30 running back during fantasy season. And to start the season, he had negative 2 yards in week 1. He had 1 carry for 1 yard in week 2. And most importantly, just didn't know the rules on a kickoff.
Oh, yeah.
And let the Seahawks recover a kickoff in the end zone for a touchdown. Caleb Johnson has had as bad of a start, unfortunately, as you could have in fantasy. I think he is absolutely droppable through the first 2 weeks. There's no way that he has the trust of his coaching staff.
I don't know exactly what the term inauspicious means. I just know that people say it was an inauspicious start when something bad happened. So I'm going to say that it's been an inauspicious start.
It has been an inauspicious start for Caleb Johnson.
I almost, when something's so bad, you actually feel bad for the player. That was me.
When he let that kickoff go behind him, and then it was just like, clearly that's not going to earn you a lot of favors. Not going to get you many stars on your star chart in the locker room. Field Yates to turn that into a daddy moment there. All right, let's talk about some Monday Night Football previews. We got 2 games tonight. 1 game at 7 p.m. Eastern, 1 game at 10 p.m. Eastern. Do you like having them stretched out so that you can watch both, or would you rather have them stacked on top of each other?
I do, and I don't. You know when I'm not going to like it? Tomorrow morning when I got to get up early. But I like it so that they're not overlapping because I want to see all of each game.
All right. Well, we've been talking about this matchup for the Bucs and the Texans. One of the big things that we've been going on about is the Texans secondary. Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka. Do you think that you see Emeka Egbuka potentially separate himself from Mike Evans, with us expecting the Derek Stingley shadow on Evans in this one?
I'll be interested to see if they do give Mike Evans the Derek Stingley shadow. Yesterday, Keon Coleman did not really draw the Sauce Gardner shadow. So we'll see. I mean, I trust Mike as much as anybody, but it's a really, really good secondary. Is this a potential? And I'm not talking about like 125 yards from Baker Mayfield. But this is a potential night where the Bucs offense isn't quite as explosive. They came back late last week against what turns out might be a good Atlanta defense, but this Houston defense is terrific. We'll see whether Emeka Egbuka can have a gigantic night.
If anything, I think, there's still no Tristan Wirfs for Baker Mayfield. I think that's going to be problematic, but Egbuka might be a quick release guy that he can get the ball to, so volume may help you there for fantasy purposes.
I don't mind that. I don't mind short area yardage targets. Like, give me all the volume. Do you think that Nick Chubb sees this volume in the Houston Texans backfield? Is this a committee? Or, even if he has it to himself, does it matter?
That's what I'm not sure if it matters, right? We saw this player play last night, and he has a different role than Chubb, but he has a little bit of what we talk about with Jordan Mason now, right? Like,
not a pass catcher.
Such a low-volume pass catcher, and this offense, they scored 0 touchdowns last week. They'll eventually be closer to the end zone, but you're really counting on a touchdown from Nick Chubb in order for him to pay off. It's probably 2 touchdowns for him to pay off as a top 20.
Yeah, I have to divide to how I feel personally about Nick Chubb versus how I feel in fantasy, because I did watch him because I wanted to see what he looked like in the offense, and he actually was running pretty well and a couple of times. Like, he's definitely not shying away from anything. If you thought, remember, he ended last season on a foot fracture after coming back from that incredible knee injury. So Nick Chubb, love the player. In real life, not sure, but I'm not starting him in any fantasy.
Yeah. And to me, the biggest storyline in Houston is not just Nick Chubb, but Nico Collins, right? We can't afford to have back-to-back duds from a player who last season looked like he was ready to start a run of a half decade.
I think it comes out tonight.
So
we'll CJ Stroud's going to have to get some protection in order to find Nico Collins downfield. That is. I'm watching that offensive line closely. Well,
that ain't getting any better during the season. So hopefully they have to figure it out. It's got to happen quickly.
If you're picking which one side of this game, Stephania, are you going your Bucs or are you going your Texans?
I forget who I picked. I already made my pick.
I'm going Texans playing at home in Houston, the desperate 0-1 team.
Yeah, I think that's who I went with, but I got to look up my pigskin.
I'm going to take the Bucs. I'll take the Bucs in this one. Okay. How about the next one? Chargers and Raiders. Field Yates.
Yep. By the way,
couple of rookie running backs.
Yeah, it's really the Ashton Genty versus Omari and Hampton show tonight. For our purposes, of course, these guys were the first 2 running backs taken in the real draft. They were the first 2 rookie running backs taken in fantasy drafts. The big question tonight for Ashton Genty, to me, is does he get a little bit more help from the offensive line? 44 rushing yards after contact last week, 38 total rushing yards. He played 86% of the snaps. That's elite. We need a bit more help from the offensive line, and we need a bit more in the passing game for Genty to pay off as a first-round investment. And for Hampton, I think the good things are going to come for Omari and Hampton, despite the fact that he had a pretty pedestrian week 1 performance. I think the only thing that I'm watching tonight is, does Najee Harris's role increase? It was basically nothing the last time they played, which was week 1 in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Najee also was 3 to 5 practices into his return from that eye injury. Not enough that I think it changes my feelings that Hampton should definitely be started. The more Najee Harris plays, the more value extracted, though, from Omari and Hampton.
I'm all in on that. Yep. Moving on.
So with that, let's talk about tight end then. Yeah, because Brock Bowers.
Right, because he's the question mark, officially questionable coming into Monday Night Football. But we talked about this yesterday on Fantasy Football Now. Everything was coming up roses after Saturday. He was able to come out and practice. Pete Carroll, very optimistic about it. Brock Bowers, a little less committal to being available for Monday night, more of a we'll wait and see, but also said he was really excited to play on Monday Night Football. So I think we're going to see him out there, barring some crazy last-minute surprise. If you have Michael Mayer available in your fantasy leagues, you should be rostering him anyway, just in case, because he's one of the few tight ends that will step in and pick up the bulk of the work. He even had a few catches with Brock Bowers playing. So make sure you have him and double check the lineups once the teams release who's officially inactive. But I do expect Brock Bowers to play. I expect him to have a good game.
For the Chargers pass catchers, does it feel like, I shouldn't say does it feel like, for my starts of the week, I had Travion Henderson and Ricky Pearsall as 2 of them. They did not do well. Justin Herbert's my quarterback, so I'm going to need him to be out here slinging it against a Raiders secondary.
Drake Mays.
Yeah, and he did very well. So I am playing from behind here on Monday Night Football. But we watched Justin Herbert look really good in week 1, and this Raiders secondary can definitely be taken advantage of. Do you think all 3 of them eat tonight, or do we have a more condensed target tree?
Yeah, the Chargers were such a pass-heavy offense in week 1, even in neutral opportunities, which is where you could expect a run run or pass. That bodes very well. The only way that is chopped off a little bit is if the running game controls the line of scrimmage and they are able to move the football much more effectively with Amon-Ra and Hampton. The bigger night for Amon-Ra and Hampton means the less likely that all three of these guys pay off tonight. But, certainly still consider Ladd McConkey an integral part of your lineup each and every week.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I need Quentin Johnston to be a thing. And apparently they love him.
I need the opposite
so
of that.
I would like him to be a thing.
85% of the snaps last week, well ahead of Keenan Allen, even though Keenan, of course, had those 10 targets. Keenan is one of those guys that, when they need to throw the football, it's going to be
third
Keenan
down.
Allen on
I'm going to use that forever after Khalil Mack called him that. He's like,
Mr. Third Down.
Third down.
So I was like, that's exactly who he is.
What was the baseball movie, Mr. 3000? Was Bernie Mac? Was that what that was?
Mr. 3000,
Yeah, it was on Mr. 3000. So, Keenan Allen's just Mr. Third Down. I like that.
Exactly.
Nice callback. Dude.
Yeah.
I know.
Bernie Mac, Mr. 3000. Let's go, baby. I got the Chargers in this game.
Deal. I am taking the Chargers as well.
I had the Chargers, and I took the Texans in the prior game.
You did take the Texans. Okay, so I'm the only one on the Bucks. I'm keeping it so that we're not having a sweep, guys. All right.
So you get swept in the wrong way.
No one wants that. No one wants
No
that.
one gives credit to the shows when everybody gets the pick correct.
Oh,
Correct.
but they love
when all of you get it wrong.
Haters.
All right, we'll be back tomorrow diving into the rest of our week 2 recap, as well as week 3 waivers. Liz Lowe's is going to host the show. I will be out, so it'll be Liz with Field and
a little
Stephania.
nappy nap because you're doing so much work.
I'm going to nap during the afternoon, and then I get to stay up all night long watching Monday Night Football, and I
good
don't
for
have to
you.
go to bed early. So I am pumped for it. But make sure you come back tomorrow. It's going to be a very good show. Don't forget to love each other, be kind to yourself, and have fun watching Monday Night Football. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
See ya.